Hey everybody, happy Monday. We are talking about autonomy today on our teacher coaching tidbit live. I should really get like a cool intro for that. So autonomy, oh my gosh, it scares so many people. Um, I think it's like synonymous now with the word chaos, and chaos is synonymous with like a heart attack or high blood pressure. But the best learning, the best teaching, the best learning I ever did is as a student, the best teaching I ever did as a teacher, the most fun, the most rewarding, the most beneficial was always heavy on learner autonomy, student autonomy. At the very end of teaching, I was going like full autonomy, and that was chaos. That was nuts. But it was so worth it. I learned so much, and now I coach and I train and I provide resources on creating more autonomy in the classroom. And I have yet to have a teacher who I've coached, trained, or provided resources for that said, you know what, Brittany, that is just not going to work. Like when they do the resources, when they implement the strategies, um, and they're talking through me or they're talking through it with me. So I haven't had somebody where I'm like, hey, here's how to go full autonomy, and or here's how to implement more autonomy in your classroom, and there you go. I haven't done that, so I don't think that'll work because it can get chaotic and it can get really stress inducing, and you do need a community or a person to kind of hash out what's going on and your stressors, and um, brainstorm strategies and brainstorm problem solving. So chaos. So autonomy, it can be chaotic. It's a chaos that you have to embrace, and it's one that you have to really believe in. A strategy that you really like, you believe full heartedly, like this is how schools should be, or this is how your classroom should be, and you're going to stick to it regardless of the roller coaster. Because there's roller coasters in anything, right? Especially when it comes to teaching in the classroom, the highs are highs, the lows are lows. And with autonomy, it's going to be the same way. And because we have that in like almost inflated sense of anxiety, anticipation, worry when it comes to going full autonomy or incorporating more autonomy in your classroom, because that already carries so much extra like anxiety weight, those lows can feel really, 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 really low, really, 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 really scary. When in reality, they're no different than if you started creating more time for group discussions or group projects, and they weren't taking off right away and you were struggling with them. Like every strategy you put in place in your classroom is going to have its highs and it's going to have its lows until you have enough practice with it for it to level itself out. You have enough confidence to know that, okay, you know what, even though that we're struggling with this right now, we're still going to be able to figure it out. I can still solve any problem that comes my way, and that comes with time and practice. And I think that the real issue with autonomy is that it's so scary that people completely avoid it. Um, and that is really doing a huge disservice to our students, because autonomy is one, it's a psychological need. It is not like, oh yeah, let's get students I don't know, more colorful notebooks and highlighters and fidgets and like a calming corner, and like all of these things that are kind of taken out of context and put in place in classrooms as like a superficial solution. Oh shoot, I hope I didn't shut you off. I just hit my headphones. Can you hear me? Yeah, you can hear me. Okay. So it's like a superficial solution to really deep rooted problems that deal with behavior and learning and motivation, and anxiety and regulation in the classroom. Autonomy is not a superficial solution. Autonomy is a psychological need, which means that the brain absolutely needs it in order for it to be regulated. It needs to feel autonomous. And it needs to feel autonomous in the same way that it needs to feel safe. It needs to feel cared for. It needs to feel like it's going to be able to predict where it's going to get food and water from. Autonomy is not an extra. Autonomy is 100% necessary, along with relatedness or belonging and feelings of competency. But we'll get into those later. Today, we're just talking about autonomy. So how do you do autonomy in the classroom? Autonomy in the classroom, first and foremost, requires that the teacher is regulated. You have to be able to notice, recognize when you are dysregulated or when your fight or flight starts flaring up. We have the Meet the Needs workshop series that the last day to register for the summer session is May 21st, and tickets are on sale now. If you really struggle with regulation and you want to understand how regulation works via your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, your parasympathetic nervous system being like your fight or flight, and your parasympathetic nervous system being your calming response. The Meet the Needs workshop series is a 4-part series that covers regulation in the classroom in completion. There isn't a more comprehensive course workshop series, even training, I think, out there specifically for teachers, designed specifically for the classroom. We cover habits, the fight or flight, calming responses, cognitive behavioral therapy techniques, the brain, negativity bias. We cover so much in it, and it's over a period of 3 months. You get live sessions and you get recordings. It's absolutely amazing. I definitely suggest it. So if you want to do autonomy, first and foremost, if you want more autonomy in your classroom, first and foremost, I definitely suggest that you do the inner work to make sure that you're walking into the space regulated and you're not going to, your fight or flight's not going to flare up at the first sign of chaos, because there is going to be a little bit of chaos involved. So strategy, so we've got 3 strategies here. Strategy 1, and these are all from the Neurodivergent Toolkit. If you haven't gotten the Neurodivergent Toolkit, definitely check it out. It is one of our best sellers, highly rated. We love it. We're always talking about it. Okay, so creating visual structure. Visuals, I talk a lot about visuals in trainings and coaching, and definitely in all of my resources, because visuals process differently than language. Visuals are processed with a lot less cognitive energy. So it does what I call dampens the cognitive load. The brain can process visuals faster than it can process language. So anytime that you have a heavy piece of language, you're displaying it, or you've got a lot of verbal directions, you definitely want to balance the cognitive load by presenting symbols or visuals, because you don't want your students wasting cognitive energy on just the directions. You need to save that cognitive energy so they can process the content, right? So everything that you want to do, or everything that you should do, you're doing in the classroom, should be paired with visuals. Always. Always. It's going to free up so much cognitive energy, which is going to increase regulation, decrease frustration, and it's also going to increase motivation and engagement. So neurodivergent students, especially, who really require the autonomy to be in the classroom, to be successful in the classroom because of previous experiences with learning in school, the quick impulse to go into fight or flight, right? Things like pathological demand avoidance, or ODD, oppositional defiance disorder, all of those neurodiverse profiles, and trauma and anxiety. They do really, really well when they have a type of control in the classroom. And we're not talking, when I say autonomy, which probably I should have covered this first, when I say autonomy, I'm not talking about like, hey, that the kids get to decide everything in your classroom. They're running the classroom, even though that's what I did towards the end of my teaching, being in the classroom. I did open it up to like, I wanted to see what would happen if the kids ran from the time I got them to the time I sent them away. And it was beautiful, chaotic, and I wish I would have done it for longer. I didn't get to do it for very long because I ended up leaving in October. But I do not regret it, and it was a lot of fun, and the kids loved it. Anyway, so what was I talking about? Autonomy in the classroom, neurodivergent students needing control, what autonomy is. Okay, so autonomy is the feeling that you control the environment as much as the environment's going to control you. You impact the environment as much as the environment can or will impact you. So if I were to be at work and my boss is forcing me to do something that I don't agree with and that I think is going to sabotage my classroom or my students, I would have, if I had a good sense of autonomy at that job, then I would be like, I'd be able to talk over the process or the specific issue with people who exist in my environment, people who I work with, and the person involved with making those decisions, which would be my principal. And if I felt a good sense of autonomy, I'd feel comfortable saying my concerns, and I would feel confident that my concerns are going to be taken seriously. I can influence my environment the same way that my environment is going to influence me via the policy that gets put in place that I might disagree with. I'd say that that's a really good example of autonomy. So it's not like, oh, I can do whatever I want and show up whatever time I want and leave whenever I want and, say whatever I want to the students and say whatever I want to the principal. That's not autonomy. Autonomy is feeling like I can influence my environment in the same way that it will influence me. I have a say. And my brain needs that. Every brain needs that in order for it to feel psychologically well or to have optimal development and optimal performance, right? So how do we do that in the classroom without complete and total chaos? We already went over like my number one rule, which is to make sure that you're regulated in the classroom before you even try this. And visuals, to make sure that you're using visuals to dampen the cognitive load, visuals and directions, visuals with any text that's really, really heavy. You want to ease the cognitive load while students are in your classroom, because when you first introduce autonomy, it can be cognitively heavy and it can be anxiety inducing, not just for you, but for the students, especially students who need to be able to predict what's going to happen, students who have types of anxiety, autistic students who need this is a clear path forward, a checklist, a flow chart. They need those supports. So visuals are going to provide like a nice lift, just a gap where people can breathe and have just a little bit more relaxation and a little bit more energy. I'm going to say that the third strategy, so we've got make sure that you are regulated 100%, and then use visuals to provide that extra cognitive energy. And then 3, we're gonna go with, let's see, what was my absolute, discussions. Absolutely, discussions. Okay. So I have a saying that if you have a problem with discussions, discuss it. If you are struggling with autonomy, discuss it. You're struggling with the kids not doing what they're supposed to be doing or getting on each other's nerves, discuss it. Student discussions are not used in the classroom as often as they should be. They are the number one most powerful tool. They give students voice. They provide a space where there is just like this organic autonomy involved. Um, a good student discussion that is them influencing their environment right there. I had when the class that I was doing full autonomy, we were doing school or student discussions at the end of every class for like 10-15 minutes. And they really, really, really took to them because the opportunity for them to speak to each other in that way with that type of platform, like the platform of the classroom, is so limited. They are not they're not getting that experience very often. And to have the whole class's attention, it is very, very powerful. I will say for student discussions, I have 3 rules when I coach I coach my teachers on setting up discussions. You want to ease anxiety. It really all comes down, guys. Like my entire Instagram page comes down to easing anxiety, easing student anxiety. So especially for neurodivergent students, you want to ease anxiety, and what that looks like, let them sit wherever they want. They do not have to sit in a kumbaya circle. Do you know how unnerving it is to sit facing somebody with like general anxiety disorder with no barrier, nothing in front of you? I can go into like why that is so anxiety inducing, and it's because of the threat response. It's because of fight or flight. It's because you are leaving yourself open and you're sitting down and you're making yourself vulnerable in a situation where you have to like talk in front of friends, especially if you're an adolescent. So you're already in a vulnerable position, and now you're sitting down and you're completely physically vulnerable because there's nothing in front of you. I always suggest that my teachers, they let the students sit wherever they want, or if you are making students do a circle, a kumbaya circle, let them hold something, pillows, books, book bag. If they can have something in front of their stomach, their weakest point, if they can have something in front of them like that, it's going to ease anxiety. It might not do it to the point where like they're completely and totally regulated, but it's going to make it better than if they didn't have anything there to begin with. It really does all come down to like evolution and fight or flight response. Like your stomach is your most vulnerable area. So that's why people like cross their arms or they'll go like this, right? They're protecting subconsciously. And that's what's happening when students are really uncomfortable sitting in circles. So if you just give them a pillow to hold, or just let them sit at their desks, you're going to take care of that problem. Another one is warn the students. The students should never come in and being like, hey guys, we're going to have a discussion today. You always want to warn students, give them 24 or 48 hours notice that, hey, next class, we're going to have a discussion. This is going to be the topic. Boom, right there. You're going to decrease anxiety because you're allowing the brain enough time to transition or set shift, to anticipate. You're not having them walk into a situation that is anxiety inducing and saying, boom, everybody get in a circle. We're going to have a discussion. That's not even going to go well with adults. Like, so don't do that. Yeah. And 3, my discussion tip. There's a good one, and I'm missing it right now. Hold on. Oh, the ripple. Okay, so The ripple effect is a total participation technique. And I think I also read it in Harvey Daniels' book, Comprehension and Collaboration, I think. He's got a ton of inquiry-based activities. So the ripple effect is you're going to design a discussion to like ripple out. It's going to start with an individual, then it's going to go to a pair, and then the student is going to enter into whole group discussion. So you give the kids the question that they're going to be discussing. They get to reflect on it individually. Then they partner up, share what they wrote, go back to individual, fix whatever they want to fix. Then they get into a whole group and they discuss. This provides students who have language deficits, anxiety, have a hard time processing questions, just slower processing, or just have struggle with working memory. It gives them time to process the information so they can actually put together a response and process what everybody else is saying too. I read a book. It wasn't Cal Newport. I think it was Persuasion. I'm gonna have to look it up. Let me see here. Persuasion. Persuasion's a really, really good book. I always tell teachers, Robert Cialdini, he wrote Influence too, the psychology of persuasion. Teachers should be trained in the same way that salespeople are trained. What are we doing when we're in front of the classroom? We're selling kids on buying what we're giving them information. And there are so many really good strategies in his books about selling that information to students, which if you listen, I totally think that the government is watching my Instagram because I've had so many like people landing on my website page from DC recently, but I'm not trying to brainwash your kids. Nobody's trying to do that. Okay. We just want them to be persuaded to, I don't know, care about what we're teaching them. So I think that every teacher should be trained in sales psychology. Anyway, oh my gosh, I totally forgot where I was going with that. So discussions and selling and Robert Cialdini. Oh shoot, I lost it too. Anyway, making sure that students are, you warn them, making sure that students have something in front of their bodies, giving them, we talked about the ripple. Man, this is what happens when I get sidetracked and I don't have notes, which I don't have notes today. I'm just flying off the cuff. Well, I'm going to have to I'm gonna have to rewatch this recording and then I'll just put it in the comments. So to recap off the cuff, autonomy is totally necessary. It's a psychological need. Everybody needs it. It is influencing your environment as much as your environment influences you. It is not letting students do whatever the hell they want. You need to be regulated if you're going to start introducing more autonomy in your classroom. The best way to ease cognitive load, to add autonomy, because autonomy is anxiety inducing and it can use a lot of cognitive energy. The easiest way is to start pairing visuals with everything. Visuals process faster than language, requires less cognitive energy. You're talking about symbols, pictures, photos, anything like holding. In fact, you could just hold up, instead of saying the word book, just book by itself, hold up the book. That is a visual. That's going to ease your cognitive load. And then making sure that you prepare for anxiety, letting students sit wherever they want or have something in front of them if they're in a kumbaya circle, prepping them, giving them warning so that they don't walk in unprepped. Ripple discussion, allowing students to go from individual reflection of question to pair reflection, back to individual, fix whatever they want, and then go back and then go into the whole group. And that's where I said Robert Cialdini's book. I still cannot remember what specifically I was trying to point I was getting across. Dang, but it was a good one too. Yeah, so if you want to do more autonomy driven activities in your classroom, you want to plan with them with confidence, you want the strategies to support, like cognitive load theory, and why autonomy is so important, and even like understanding, is autonomy the issue, right? We have so many teachers out here that are just throwing strategies to the wind, like they're just throwing out strategies and they don't even know if the strategy is going to solve the problem because they don't know what the problem is. The Neurodivergent Toolkit is designed for you to look at the behavior, look at the student, their strengths and their struggles, identify what need is compromised for that student, and then take the strategies in the toolkit, adapt them if you need to, and design for success to support that compromised need. So before you even do this, before you do autonomy, thinking that autonomy is going to fix all of life's problems, make sure that autonomy is the compromised need. And you can do that with the Neurodivergent Toolkit. I also have a couple of blog posts explaining like the meet the need method. Anyway, this was a long one, but I liked it. I just shot off the hip. Yeah, usually I'll have a script and everything, but today life's been cray. So I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining, and I will see you Wednesday for the Q&A. Oh, if you want the Neurodivergent Toolkit, comment needs or go to the link in my bio.